The glitch in the dark. Jack Rains, a human engineer with grease-stained hands and a tired face, stepped onto the steel floors of the UNS Vanguard, a massive military ship floating deep in neutral space. He had worked on many ships before, but this one was special. It wasn't just a human crew. This one was mixed with alien engineers, warriors, and officers. A diplomatic experiment, they said. Jack didn't care. He just wanted to fix broken things, get paid, and go home. Room B14, he muttered, checking his data pad as the elevator doors slid open. When he entered the shared quarters, he stopped. A tall alien female stood inside, already unpacking tools and equipment. Her skin was smooth and slightly glowing with a pale lavender color. Her long black hair was tied back, and her eyes were sharp like blades, cold, calculating. She didn't even glance at him. "You must be the human," she said flatly. Jack raised a brow. "You must be the roommate." She finally looked at him, her expression unreadable. "I am Kylara of the Etheri, senior engineer. This room has limited space. Do not move my equipment." Jack dropped his bag and gave a small smirk. "Nice to meet you too, Sunshine." She didn't reply. The first few hours were tense. Jack worked on a plasma relay near the ship's lower deck. Kylara was on the other end, silent and efficient. She barely spoke. She never smiled, but her hands were skilled. Fast, steady, and perfect. Jack admired that, even if she acted like he didn't exist. Later that evening, Jack returned to the room to rest. Kylara sat on her bed, reading technical data. Jack laid back on his bunk sighing. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Then everything went black. The room vibrated softly, and a red emergency light blinked on. A loud voice came from the ship's comms. "Attention crew, power failure detected. Main reactor offline. Switching to emergency life support. Engineers report to main deck." Jack jumped up. Kylara was already on her feet. "What the hell?" Jack whispered. "We're not even in combat." Kylara's eyes narrowed. "This should not be possible. Our systems are shielded from internal failure." They both ran to the hallway, but everything was dark except for red emergency lights. The air felt colder already. Jack checked the temperature. It was dropping fast. Emergency life support was minimal. Heating was shut off to preserve energy. After 3 hours of searching, the situation got worse. Backup generators were struggling. A strange virus had locked several engineers out of the system. Someone or something had tampered with the code. Kylara looked at Jack seriously. "The ship's AI systems have been rewritten. This is not an accident. Someone caused this." Jack stared at her. "You think it's sabotage?" She didn't answer. They returned to their room, tired and half frozen. The temperature was down to 10 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Celsius, cold enough to make sleep nearly impossible. Jack noticed something else. The heating bed, the ship's backup thermal sleep pod, was malfunctioning too. Only one side of it was working. Kylara stared at the bed, then at him. "Thermal output is insufficient for 2 individuals. Separately, sharing may be necessary to prevent hypothermia." Jack blinked. "Wait, are you saying we sleep together?" "Logically, yes," she replied without emotion. "I do not desire it. But my biology cannot withstand prolonged cold exposure, nor can yours." Jack scratched the back of his neck. "Well, this is awkward." "I will stay on the left," Kylara said and removed her belt calmly, as if she were discussing machine parts. They both slid into the bed. The heat was slow to rise. Jack tried to keep to his side, but it was narrow. Shoulders touched. Then, hips. "You're surprisingly warm," he muttered. She closed her eyes. "My people maintain internal heat balance through bioelectric flow. This touch increases survival odds." Jack laughed quietly. "Right. Just survival." They laid, in silence for several minutes. Then the ship shook. Just a little. Not from weapons, but like a pulse running through the hull. Jack sat up. "Did you feel that?" Kylara's eyes opened. Yes, I felt it twice before. We are not alone in the systems. What do you mean? She whispered. Someone else is moving through the ship, quietly, and they're avoiding the sensors. Jack lay back down, staring at the red light blinking on the wall. Something was very wrong on this ship. He looked at Kylara beside him, eyes closed, face calm, but a small twitch in her brow gave away her tension. Jack had a feeling this wasn't just a malfunction, and as strange as it was, the cold alien beside him might be the only one he could trust. Jack Rains woke up to warmth and pressure. Something soft was resting against his chest. His arm was around it. He blinked, confused. His brain worked, slowly in the cold air of the room. Then he realized he wasn't holding a blanket. He was holding Kylara, the proud, emotionless alien engineer who had treated him like a walking virus, was now sleeping with her face pressed to his neck, one leg thrown across his waist, her hand gripping his shirt. Jack's eyes went wide. What the hell? Kylara stirred. Her eyes blinked open. For a moment she didn't move. Then she looked down, realized where her hand was, realized where his arm was. Her entire body went stiff. This was unintentional, she said quickly, pulling away. Her cheeks, faintly violet, darkened just a little. Jack tried to act cool. Yeah, I didn't mind. Just hope you didn't shock me in your sleep. I did not, she snapped. They both got out of the bed fast. The room was still dim. The power hadn't returned. The temperature was barely tolerable now. Jack could see his own breath. But something was worse. The hallway outside was completely silent. Normally, even during an emergency, a ship this size had noise, footsteps, repair crews, buzzing machinery. But now? Nothing. No voices. No motion. Just silence and red emergency lights. They made their way toward the engine control room. Along the way, they passed 3 other crew quarters. All empty. Where is everyone? Jack whispered. Kylara glanced around. Some sectors may have been sealed, but not this many. They reached Engineering Bay 2. The door was locked. Jack pulled out his tool. I can override it. Wait, Kylara said, pointing at the access panel. Someone had melted part of it with a plasma cutter. From the inside. Whoever had been inside had sealed themselves in, or someone didn't want them coming out. Jack looked at her. Sabotage? She nodded once. And panic. Whoever did this didn't want help arriving. Back in the control center, they checked the logs, but most of the files were corrupted. Then Kylara tapped on her screen. There's a repeating signal here. It's small, buried, not from our system. Jack leaned in. Like a hidden transmission? Yes, very weak. Someone is trying to stay unnoticed. Then the lights above flickered again, and the door behind them opened on its own. They turned around instantly. No one was there, just an empty hallway. Jack's skin crawled. This place is getting creepier by the second. Kylara looked calm, but her hand moved toward a small tool on her belt, a shock prod. Jack stepped back to the console. Let's isolate that signal. Maybe we can trace where it's coming from. They worked together for minutes in silence. Jack couldn't help but glance at her sometimes. She was focused, efficient, cold again. Like the closeness from earlier had never happened, but he couldn't stop remembering how tightly she had held him. Why? Suddenly, an alert flashed on the console. Unauthorized access, Medbay Level 3. Kylara straightened. That level was supposed to be sealed. Jack tapped the screen. We've got movement. A blinking dot on the map. Someone walking slowly through the medbay in complete darkness. Jack frowned. Let's go check it. Kylara shook her head. No. Too risky. Let's set up a trap. Jack blinked. A trap? That's very human of you. She turned toward him, her eyes narrowing. Do not mistake me for soft. I have survived 5 war zones. He smirked. Yeah, I felt that when you choked me in your sleep. She looked away, saying nothing. They returned to their room to gear up. Jack noticed something strange. The heating bed was on again, but neither of them had activated it. He moved closer. A small device, no bigger than a coin, was attached underneath it. Kilara gasped. "That's not standard issue." Jack pulled it off carefully. It was alien tech, stealth grade, used to track life signatures. They looked at each other. "Someone bugged our bed," Jack said. Kilara nodded. "They wanted to know if we shared it." Jack's voice dropped. "Why?" Suddenly, they heard it, footsteps fast, heavy, outside their room, then nothing. Just silence. Jack rushed to the door, opened it, empty hallway again. But now, a symbol had been burned into the wall. A strange alien mark. A warning, or a signature. Kilara stared at it with wide eyes. "This is bad." "What does it mean?" She didn't answer right away. Then she whispered, "It means we're being watched. By someone who doesn't want humans and Etheri getting close." Kilara didn't say a word as she walked ahead. Jack followed her through the narrow halls of the ship, both of them tense and alert. The strange symbol burned into the wall still haunted his mind. Someone had marked them. Not attacked, not warned, marked. Like prey. They reached the lower maintenance shaft, engineering deck 5. It was tight, narrow, and cold as ice. The ship's temperature had dropped again. Every breath steamed in the air. Jack groaned. "Why do saboteurs always go for the heating system? Can't they just mess with the coffee machine instead?" Kilara didn't answer. She was already climbing down the shaft ladder. Her species was stronger and faster in tight spaces, and she moved like a shadow. Jack struggled behind her, slipping on the frozen rungs. At the bottom, they found the damage. Wires cut. Control panels smashed. A thermal regulator ripped out of the wall, but it wasn't random. It was surgical. Whoever did this knew exactly what to destroy. "This wasn't done in panic," Kilara said, touching the wires with her fingers. "It was planned." Jack crouched beside her. "I've seen this kind of pattern before during a sabotage on a Mars cargo freighter. They disable the regulators, then wait. The crew gets cold, tired. Easy to manipulate." He looked at her. "Someone is wearing us down." Kilara met his eyes. "And they are targeting us." They moved to the next junction, a place where the core's cooling and heating systems met. But when they tried to access the door, it locked. "Manual override?" Jack asked. Kilara nodded. They both knelt down and started opening the lower hatch. The metal was freezing and their fingers stiffened. Kilara's hands, though graceful, began to shake. "You okay?" Jack asked. "I am not adapted for low temperatures," she said softly. "My blood begins to thicken." Without thinking, Jack reached into his coat and pulled out a heat patch, standard issue emergency thermal pad. "Here," he said, pressing it into her palm. "It'll warm your fingers. Just don't expect me to hold your hand again." Kilara blinked at the pad, surprised. Then to his shock she smiled. It was small, almost invisible, but it was real. Inside the junction chamber, the heat systems were failing. They needed to reprogram the circuit relays, but when they opened the interface, Jack froze. Lines of alien code filled the screen. Not human, not Etheri. Something else. Kilara's face turned serious. "This code is from the Xyrix Dominion." Jack stiffened. "But they're supposed to be allies now." "They lie with words," Kilara said. "But their code never lies." Jack pointed at one line. "This isn't just a virus. This is a sleeper program. It's designed to shut down systems slowly and spy on repair logs. It knows what we're doing." Kilara looked at him. "Then it knows we're here." Suddenly the screen flashed red. "System breach detected." Jack cursed. "We tripped something." The door behind them slammed shut, locked, and the temperature dropped again. Hard. So fast, Jack could feel his skin tighten. Kilara pressed close to the wall. "We need to finish the override now, or we freeze." Jack nodded, fingers working fast. But it wasn't enough. The cold was biting, even through his uniform. Kilara trembled next to him, her lavender skin turning pale. Jack turned to her. "Get in the crawl space. There's a heat duct inside. We can warm up while I reroute power." She hesitated, then crawled inside. Jack followed. The space was small, tight, barely enough for both of them. But the heat from the exposed pipe was enough to survive. They pressed side by side, shoulders touching, faces close. Jack tried not to think about it, but Kilara spoke. "My people believe humans are dangerous," she whispered. "But you gave me your heat, your only pad." "Why?" Jack shrugged. "Because you're cold. And because I don't like seeing you suffer." She stared at him, eyes softer now. "Most humans I've met only offer weapons. You offer warmth." Jack smiled. "Well, I only attack when coffee runs out." The panel beeped. The reroute was complete. Power to that section returned. The door opened, but just before they crawled out, something strange happened. Kilara reached forward and gently touched Jack's hand, just once, then pulled away without a word. As they stood again in the open chamber, Jack felt a chill, but it wasn't from the cold, it was from what he saw on the wall screen. Another message. Text written in the Xyrix language, slowly scrolling across the screen. He translated it aloud. "You are getting too close." Kilara stared at the screen, then looked at Jack. For the first time, fear touched her voice. "They know we're working together." The door closed behind them with a quiet hiss. Jack and Kilara stood alone in the auxiliary control room, lit only by the red warning lights pulsing slowly across the walls. Shadows moved across their faces, giving the place a haunted feeling. But Jack's mind was on something else. Her hand. She had touched his hand back in the crawl space. Gently. On purpose, Kilara of the Etheri, who had been cold and distant, had reached out to him. He hadn't said anything then, but now, as the silence stretched between them again, it was all he could think about. He finally broke the quiet. "That wasn't just a friendly touch back there," he said carefully. "Was it?" Kilara didn't look at him. She stared at the console, fingers moving slowly over the screen. "I was cold." "You're still cold," Jack said, "but that wasn't survival instinct, that was different." She turned her face slightly, eyes sharp. "Your species reads meaning into everything. A glance, a brush of skin. But sometimes touch is just contact." Jack tilted his head. "But that wasn't just contact for you, was it?" Kilara paused. Then she sighed, long and slow. "I've never shared heat with another being outside of my kind. Etheri don't bond casually, but..." She looked down. "You were kind. You risked warmth for me. That's not something I expected from a human." Jack folded his arms, curious now. "Why do your people hate us so much anyway?" Kilara's lips pressed into a line. "Because humans adapt to everything. You turn every disaster into victory, every enemy into an ally, or a memory. Many species admire you. Others fear what you'll become next." Jack gave a small smile. "We don't mean to scare anyone. We're just trying to live." She glanced at him. "Exactly. And that's what makes you dangerous." They returned to analyzing the coded signal. Jack decrypted more of it. But there was something odd. It wasn't just disabling systems. "It's collecting data," Jack said. "Ship maps, crew locations, heat zones. Why would anyone need that?" Kilara leaned forward. "They're mapping where everyone sleeps." Jack went cold. "Wait. Then that means..." Suddenly the screen blinked. A new folder appeared, labeled Room B14. Their room. Jack stared. "They're watching us." Kilara's hands trembled slightly. "We need to erase that data, now." But as Jack reached for the console, a low alarm began to hum. Unauthorized access detected. The door sealed behind them. They were locked in. They tried to break into the console again, but the code fought back. Every time Jack made progress, the system rolled back. It's like the AI has a mind of its own, he growled. Kylara didn't answer. She was frozen in place, eyes locked on a single line of alien text, now flashing on the screen. Jack turned to her. What is it? She didn't speak at first, then in a quiet, broken voice. This language is from my world. Jack blinked. Wait, I thought you said it was Zyric's code? She shook her head slowly. Some of it was. But this line is Etheri military code. He stared. What the hell does that mean? Kylara looked away. I didn't tell you everything. During the last human war with the Xerics, my government sent silent observers to learn your weaknesses. My team was one of them. I was trained to monitor humans up close. Jack felt his heart drop. You were spying on us? I was assigned to, she said. But when I saw what humans did, how you saved wounded enemies, how you shared food with rivals, I questioned the mission. I spoke against continuing it. Jack took a step back, eyes cold now. And your people kicked you out, didn't they? Her silence was the answer. The alarm stopped. The door behind them unsealed. Kylara didn't move. I don't expect forgiveness, she said. But I'm not spying anymore. Not for them. I chose this mission to see if maybe humans could ever trust us. Jack looked at her for a long time, then he sighed. You're still here. You've risked your life, stayed in freezing rooms, and helped me trace a rogue virus through this whole ship. If that's not trust, I don't know what is. Kylara turned, her voice quieter. And if you reported this, I would be punished, maybe even exiled. Jack walked past her, reached for the system override. Then it's a good thing I didn't hear anything. Together they wiped the surveillance files and shut down the spy signal. But in the corner of the screen a new warning appeared. Core breach detected. Level 6 engine room. Jack looked at her. Someone just made their move. Kylara's eyes narrowed. No, she said. Someone just tried to end the game. The artificial night cycle had begun. Most of the ship's lights were off now, leaving only red emergency glows lining the corridors. The deeper levels were colder than ever. Life support was still failing in waves, and yet, someone was walking through them. Bare footsteps echoed faintly against the metal floor. Not running, not hiding, just walking. Jack couldn't sleep. Not after what he and Kylara had seen in the core room. Etheri code embedded in the spy signal. The threat of sabotage rising. And now, a breach warning from level 6. He sat on his bunk, holding a small thermal core in his hands. The bed had grown cold again. The warmth they'd shared earlier was gone, and Kylara was sitting across the room, back straight, arms crossed, silent. She hadn't spoken much since her confession, but she kept glancing at him. Like she wanted to say something, but didn't. Know how, Jack finally broke the silence. We need to go check the breach. Kylara didn't move. He waited, then added softly, unless you think it's another trap. She looked up. Of course it's a trap. But if we don't walk into it, someone else will. Jack nodded. Then we walk in together. They made their way down to level 6, a rarely used engine compartment meant only for manual overrides. The lower they went, the darker it got. The emergency lights were dimmer here, flickering like dying candles. They turned a corner, then froze. A door was open, not just unlocked, wide open, as if someone was waiting. Inside, faint blue lights danced across the walls. Broken equipment lay scattered, and in the center, a figure stood still, back-turned, facing the reactor shaft. Not moving, not speaking, just watching. Jack held up his tool, ready to strike. Kylara raised her shock prod. Who are you? Jack called out. No response. They stepped in carefully, boots crunching over shattered glass. Kylara spoke in her language. Identify yourself. Still nothing. Then, the figure moved. Slowly, they turned around. It was an alien male, but his eyes were fully black. No pupils, no light. Like his mind was gone, and then he spoke, but not in any language. His voice was low and layered, like many voices speaking at once. They will never let you unite. Jack's skin crawled. What? The figure took a step forward. Your warmth, your weakness, must be separated. Kylara raised her prod. You are infected, but the figure only smiled, then suddenly collapsed. They rushed forward. Jack checked for a pulse. None. Kylara scanned his data chip. His mind was overwritten, not just hacked, controlled. Jack looked at her. By who? Kylara pointed at the console near the reactor. There, glowing on the screen, was a message written in hybrid code, Xyrix and Aetheri combined. Do not need war, we only need fear. Jack's blood ran cold. They're trying to make both sides blame each other. Kylara nodded. If the crew believes Aetheri code caused this, your command will retaliate. Jack looked at her. They'll think you're a traitor. Kylara's face tightened. They won't think, they'll just act. Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind them. Jack turned fast, ready for a fight. But it was Commander Reeves, the ship's human security chief, and 2 guards. They pointed weapons at both of them. Step away from the console, Reeves ordered. Jack raised his hands. Commander, listen, we can explain, but Reeves cut him off. We saw the Aetheri code, and she was the last one logged accessing engineering. Kylara didn't flinch. Jack stepped between them. She's not the one behind this. Reeves narrowed his eyes. Then who is? Jack looked at the collapsed alien on the floor. He was being controlled. Someone used both Aetheri and Xyrix code to start a war from inside. Reeves looked doubtful. Commander, Kylara spoke softly. If I wanted to destroy this ship, I wouldn't be standing in the cold with a human trying to stop it. Reeves stared at her for a moment, then lowered his weapon, slightly. You've got one chance to prove it, he said. One. Or I seal this level and both of you go down with it. Later that night, back in their room, Jack leaned against the wall. The reactor breach had been sealed, the corrupted files isolated. But whoever had sent the signal was still out there. Kylara sat on the bed, finally looking tired. She glanced at Jack. You didn't have to protect me back there. He shrugged. Yeah, well, I'm used to fixing broken systems, even ones with spikes and sharp tongues. Kylara stared at him, then spoke softly. My people believe closeness is weakness, but now, I think being alone is worse. Jack smiled, and this time it was him who reached for her hand. The next morning didn't feel like morning at all. There were no windows on the UNS Vanguard, just clocks, alerts, and artificial lighting, most of which still didn't work. Jack Rains stirred from a restless sleep, his breath fogging in the cold air. The emergency heat bed was still warm, but this time, it was empty. Kylara was gone. He sat up fast, scanning the room. No note, no message, just silence. Then, over the comm, came a low message from Commander Reeves. All engineers report to Reactor Chamber 2. Repeat, Reactor Chamber 2. Something felt wrong. Jack arrived to find Kylara already there, standing beside a large console. She looked distant, like her mind was somewhere else. What happened? He asked. She didn't look at him. Commander Reeves asked us to check the heat grid. He said the core might be misaligned again. Jack frowned. Feels too easy. Last time we almost got spaced. Kylara nodded. I know. The moment they stepped inside the core room, the door slammed shut behind them. Sealed. No override. Jack spun around, pounding the panel. What the hell? Kylara stepped to the screen. Her face hardened. It's locked from command deck. This was on purpose. Jack stared at her. They're trapping us? She didn't answer. But her silence said enough. The chamber was freezing cold. Steam hissed from the vents. A few dull lights flickered above them. casting long, shifting shadows. Jack took a slow breath. "We're locked in here to freeze." Kilara moved toward the emergency heater panel. "It's been disabled," Jack cursed. "They're trying to erase us quietly. No blame. Just a technical failure." Kilara leaned her forehead against the cold wall. "This is the punishment for loyalty." Jack looked at her. "No. This is fear. Somebody's afraid of what we're becoming." She turned to him, confused. "What do you mean?" He stepped closer. "You and me, working together, trusting each other, maybe even something more. That scares them." Kilara blinked slowly. Her voice was softer now. "Does it scare you?" Jack gave a half smile. "Honestly, a little. But most things worth doing do." They tried to stay warm. At first they worked, stacking crates, fixing circuits, moving to keep the blood flowing. But the cold was winning. Jack's fingers turned numb. Kilara's skin lost its soft lavender tone and became pale. She shivered once, then collapsed to one knee. "Hey!" Jack rushed to her side. "Kai, stay with me!" "My circulation is shutting down," she whispered. "Etheri bodies don't last long in human-level cold." Jack didn't think twice. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her and sliding them both behind the crates near a backup vent. Just enough warm air leaked from it to help. Her body trembled against him. "I don't understand," she muttered. "Why save me? I was trained to spy on you." Jack tightened his grip. "Because you stopped spying. Because you chose to help instead of run. Because you're not the same person you were when you boarded this ship." Kilara's voice was shaking. "No one has ever said that to me before." He looked into her alien eyes. "Then it's about damn time someone did." Minutes passed in silence. Then, she leaned into him. Not because of the cold, not because of survival, but because she wanted to. Her voice was quiet. "I don't think I can go back. Not to my people. Not after this." Jack rested his head lightly against hers. "Then don't. Stay here. Fight with me. Not against me." Their fingers touched. Her long, delicate ones curling around his calloused hand. A small warmth returned to both their faces. Suddenly, a noise echoed through the chamber. A hiss. Then, footsteps. Jack jumped to his feet, holding a pipe in one hand. Kilara rose beside him, weaker but alert. From the far side of the chamber, a figure appeared. Not Reeves, not a soldier. An alien, Xyrix, tall and insectoid, cloaked in tech that shimmered like static. Its voice came through a translator, buzzing with layered tones. "You should not be alive." Jack raised the pipe. "Yeah? Well, we're stubborn like that." The Xyrix stepped forward. "The plan was simple. Turn you against each other. Let distrust do the work, but you ruined everything." Kilara stepped in front of Jack. "If you're here," she said calmly, "then you're exposed. And we're not alone anymore." Behind them, the emergency door slammed open. Reeves stormed in with a squad of guards, weapons raised. The Xyrix turned, but it was too late. A stun blast hit him hard, knocking him to the ground. Reeves stared at the scene, then looked at Jack. "Guess you were telling the truth." Jack helped Kilara to her feet. "Told you." Reeves gave a short nod. "Let's get you both out of here." As they walked out together, Kilara whispered something only Jack could hear. "I would share heat with you again, even without the cold." Jack laughed softly. "I'd let you. But next time, maybe we get 2 beds." 12 hours later, the UNS Vanguard floated quietly in space, battered but stable. Power had been restored, systems rebooted, temperature normalized, but the ship didn't feel safe. Not yet. Jack Rains sat alone in the observation room, staring out at the stars. He held a cup of synth coffee, hands warm, eyes heavy. After everything, he still couldn't rest. Behind him, the door hissed open. Kilara stepped in, her steps soft but steady. She no longer wore her engineer's armor. Instead, she wore a black utility suit, neutral and simple, human style. Jack turned slightly. Couldn't sleep either. She sat beside him. Sleep felt dishonest, like pretending nothing happened. They sat in silence. Then she spoke. The Xerix assassin. He was hiding on this ship for weeks, disguised, listening, waiting for our conflict to ignite. Jack nodded. And if we hadn't been locked in that room together, maybe it would have worked. Her voice dropped low. They knew Etheri and humans didn't trust each other, so they used that. Planted fake code, used my language. They knew it would divide us. Jack sipped his coffee. They almost won. Kilara looked at him. But we didn't let them. 2 hours earlier, the interrogation room was filled with tension. The Xerix saboteur, now in containment, remained, silent, his face emotionless under the soft blue lights. Commander Reeves stood at the glass, arms crossed. Beside him stood Kilara and Jack. He hasn't spoken since the capture, Reeves muttered. Not a single word. Jack leaned forward. He already said enough. When he whispered, "They'll never let you unite," I believed him. Reeves looked at Kilara. "Your people will demand he be turned over." Kilara's expression was unreadable. "And yours will want him dissected." Reeves grunted. "He tried to bring down our entire ship. He nearly got my crew killed." Jack spoke up. "He wanted us to destroy each other. His mission wasn't just sabotage, it was division. We can't play into that." Reeves sighed. "So what do you suggest?" Jack's eyes narrowed. "We talked to him, not with weapons, with truth." Reeves scoffed. "You think that'll work?" Kilara stepped forward. "Let me try." Inside the containment chamber, the Xerix sat chained. Kilara entered slowly, unarmed. He tilted his head, his alien eyes blinking sideways. "You should fear me, Etheri," he said. "Your weakness cost you victory." Kilara stood tall. "No, my weakness saved this ship." He clicked. "Humans will never accept your kind. Even now they whisper behind closed doors, blaming, plotting." Kilara's tone was calm. "I was raised to believe that. But then I met one who didn't treat me like an enemy." The Xerix hissed. "He used you." "No," she said firmly. "He protected me, even when he had every reason not to." The Xerix leaned forward. "Then you are lost." Kilara leaned closer. "No, you are. Because you still think fear is stronger than trust. But I was trained to spy, to lie, and I chose truth." Outside the chamber, Jack listened through the glass and smiled. Later that day, an emergency meeting was called in the war room. High Command appeared via hologram. Both, human and alien, admirals, generals, council leaders, Kilara stood in front of them, alone. She spoke clearly. The sabotage was done using hybrid code. Yes, some of it was Etheri design, but it was twisted, used by a third party. The human admiral frowned. "So we're supposed to believe your people had no part in this?" Kilara didn't flinch. "My people gave you reasons to doubt us. I won't deny that. But I chose to stop the traitor. I risked my life to protect this ship." Another alien general spoke. "And why would you? You owe nothing to the humans." Kilara looked to the side, where Jack stood silently in the corner. Then she turned back. "Because one of them showed me something my world never did. Respect without conditions." A quiet fell over the chamber. No one spoke, until the human admiral nodded. "Then you've earned ours." After the meeting, Jack caught up with her in the corridor. "You handled them like a pro." Kilara smiled faintly. "I had a good teacher." Jack scratched his head. "Wasn't really teaching, just panicking with confidence." She laughed, a real laugh, light and short, but genuine. They walked together, side by side, and for the first time it didn't feel strange. That evening, a new order was given. The Xyrix was to be transferred to a neutral prison for questioning. But Kylara had one final request, to speak with him one last time. Jack joined her. Inside the chamber, the Xyrix looked up. "So, you've come to say goodbye." Kylara spoke calmly. "No, I came to say you failed." He sneered. "More ships will come. More confusion. More division." Jack leaned forward. "And we'll stop them too. You didn't count on us understanding each other," the Xyrix hissed, but this time, his voice trembled. "You humans always ruin the game." Jack smiled. "That's kinda our thing." 2 days later, the UNS Vanguard prepared to dock. Repairs were almost done. Crew morale had returned, but something else had changed. Kylara stood near the docking ramp, a small bag over her shoulder. Jack approached, surprised. "You're leaving?" She nodded. "Command offered me reassignment, back to my people, clean record." He looked away. "That's good." Then she added, "I said no." Jack looked at her, confused. "No?" She stepped closer. "I requested reassignment to Earth." His eyes widened. "Earth?" "I want to understand more. About humans. About engineers who offer warmth to their enemies. About men who fix problems with heart, not just tools." Jack smirked. "You really like me, huh?" Kylara's voice softened. "I'm still learning what like means, but I know this. I feel warmer when you're near." Jack stepped closer. "You're gonna hate Earth's weather." She tilted her head. "Then I'll need someone to keep me warm." Jack smiled. "I volunteer." She leaned forward, and this time she took his hand. Not for survival, not for duty, but because she wanted to. As the ship docked and stars turned to sky, a new chapter began. Not in war, not in sabotage, but in something no one had predicted, a quiet alliance born in darkness and warmed by trust.